Welcome back to another episode of BreBre Talks MMA. Before we get into the episode, I want to give a huge shout out to Hayabusa. They sent me some new gloves. They are absolutely beautiful. Look at these, the pink on the inside, the white on the outside. I'm obsessed. I also have some pink ones behind me, if you can see them. I've been using Hayabusa gloves for 4 years now, and I'm a huge fan of their products. I really like that they have the interior strap too for the wrist support. That's been really helpful for me. As you guys might know, I have lupus, so I have a lot of joint pain. So any kind of support for my joints is amazing. And these gloves are extremely durable. The last pair that I had for 4 years. And then I was kind of like, oh, I probably need new gloves. And I never got around to it because they still held up. Like they're not torn, they're not ripped. They're still in great condition. I've noticed a little bit of the padding's kind of softened up, but other than that, I mean, that's pretty normal for having gloves for 4 years. So as far as durability and how long they last, I mean, mine have definitely lasted a long time. I mean, I'm probably still going to use my old gloves. So yeah, thank you so much, Hayabusa. I appreciate you sending me these gloves. Definitely excited to use them in the gym next time I have a training session. So thank you very much. And let's get into the episode. So today we are going to be covering UFC St. Louis. Before we get into that, I will kind of touch on the UFC 301 pay-per-view and the fact that Pantoja is still the flyweight champion, what that means for the future, who I would like to see next, and so on and so forth. I also want to talk about Jose Aldo's return and a couple other things from the evening that stood out to me. So let's just run through that card real quick. Obviously, the main event was an amazing fight. I think Steve Erceg surprised a lot of people. I honestly wasn't that surprised. I knew that it would be a tough fight for him, and I didn't think he was going to win, to be honest, but I didn't think he was going to get finished. I didn't think he was going to, really get dominated, but I did pick Pantoja to win, and he won. So, yeah, it kind of worked out exactly how I expected. I had a feeling that Erceg would have some good moments, and with it being flyweight, I wasn't surprised that it was a close fight. We see this all the time. I don't know why people get surprised when a flyweight fight ends like that. It's pretty on brand. And that's why I love the division. That's why I love flyweight. It's so competitive. But yeah, overall, that was a great performance from Pantoja, but I don't think that Erceg lost anything from that. I mean, he seems like he's taking it pretty hard. He said, like, I blew it and all this stuff, but I think the fact that he didn't get finished is, I think a lot of people are impressed just by that. So, like, the fact he didn't get dominated, he didn't get finished, I mean, I know it's not a win, but that's the closest thing you can get to a win, especially going from ranked number 10 to being in a title fight. Because now he's associated with Pantoja, so even though he didn't win, it was a close fight. People are going to remember that. And they're going to remember that, yay, Steve Erceg belongs in there. He belongs with Pantoja. So from there, I don't want to see him fight like the number 8 guy or the number 9 guy. I want to see Erceg fighting in the top 5. I think that's where he belongs. I don't see any reason to put him in there with someone who doesn't have a single digit next to their name. And preferably, I'd like to see him against maybe somebody like Moreno or even, I'm trying to think who else. Maybe Makayev, but I feel like stylistically, the Moreno fight is just really exciting. And I think that's what I want to see. I don't know if Moreno has anything booked, but I really do like the idea of that fight with them being both such good boxers. They both had a competitive fight with Pantoja, so, I mean, yeah, I want to see it. And then Jose Aldo, he beat Jonathan Martinez via unanimous decision. Pretty dominant performance from Jose Aldo. Martinez had some good moments, but overall, This was Aldo's fight, and it sounds kind of crazy to people who don't remember Aldo, like when Aldo was in his prime, but I do actually think that this win could get Jose a title shot, and I said that before the fight even happened. Like I was sitting there watching it and I was like, you know what's crazy about this fight? I'm like, if Jose Aldo wins, he could be fighting O'Malley. Like, it's really not unheard of. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the title shot, just because business wise, him or Merab, I would say Aldo probably makes more sense. But at the same time, it's supposed to be, the best fighting the best. And the thing is, that's really not true. That's really, and the best fighting the best doesn't always mean in the rankings. So rankings are definitely a huge factor when you're talking about title pictures and getting a title shot, but it's not the end all be all. And I think people forget that. I think people forget that just being ranked number one doesn't necessarily guarantee you're going to get the title shot. I do think Merab is going to get the title shot, and I'm pretty sure they're targeting that for the Sphere in September. So I do think that Merab is going to get the title shot, but I wouldn't be surprised if something happens with that fight. If that falls through, I wouldn't be surprised if Aldo is fighting for a title again. Now, do I think Jose Aldo should be fighting for a title after that win? Probably not, but he's Jose Aldo, so he can do it. He's a former champion. He's probably the greatest featherweight of all time, and I don't see any reason to make him really climb the ranks at bantamweight if he's coming back. Like, I don't think he came back to fight, the number 10 through number 1 guys. I think he came back knowing that with 1 or 2 wins, he could be fighting for a title again. And the title would be for bantamweight, which for him is a big deal because that would make him a 2-division champ. So, I don't know. And how has Aldo done at bantamweight? Because I know he lost to Piotr Jan, of course, but I feel like he's had some good performances besides that one. And I don't know. I mean, he's later in his career, and of course at bantamweight, that is not really what you want. You really want to be young and in your prime at bantamweight. So it is kind of interesting that he went backwards. He moved down instead of moving up. But I think it makes sense for him when you consider his build and his physique. I mean, he's only 5'7", so he's not going to fight at lightweight. I mean, he could. I just don't think he would do super well there. So, yeah, I think that there are some good matchups for him at bantamweight, and he does have a nice little string of wins. He had the win over Cheeto, then he had Pedro Munoz, Rob Font, lost to Merab, which aged very well, and then got the win over Martinez. So his debut at bantamweight was Marlon Moraes. He lost that via split decision. Then he fought Piotr Jan, of course, lost that fight. Jan became champion. That was for a vacant title. And then he went on that 3-fight winning streak, lost to Merab, and now is back in the win column with the win over Jonathan Martinez. So I'm trying to think, like, who would you put him against in bantamweight that would really make sense? I mean, I guess you could put him against Cejudo. I don't know. That fight doesn't really... I mean, it's exciting because they're both legends, but as far as, like, stylistically, I don't know. I think... Actually, you know what would be really interesting, and I don't know if they're friends or not, but Figueiredo versus Aldo at bantamweight sounds really interesting. And then maybe a rematch with Piotr Jan. Actually, that wouldn't be a bad idea because Piotr Jan beat him, what was that, 4 years ago? So it's been a while, and Piotr Jan doesn't have a fight booked that I know of. He's not fighting Corey Sandhagen because Corey Sandhagen's fighting Umar. So yeah, I think that either Henry Cejudo or Petr Yan. I think the rematch with Petr Yan makes a lot of sense. I also like the idea of potentially Aldo fighting O'Malley, but I don't know. I think if O'Malley beats Merab, then that would be really interesting. But if Merab wins, I really don't have any desire to see that rematch with him and Aldo. So I think, yeah. I think Petr Yan's my number one choice for Aldo, the rematch. So that would be an exciting rematch. I mean, I know it was a pretty dominant performance the first fight, but it looks like Aldo, oddly enough, has kind of gotten better. Or maybe just adjusted to bantamweight a little bit better. So, I don't know. But that was a great performance from him on Saturday. That was a great performance from Aldo. So, we'll see what happens. And then, what else happened? I feel like this card went by so fast. Anthony Smith submitted Vitor Petrino. That was wild. I was not expecting that at all. I definitely underestimated Anthony Smith because I picked Vitor, but I picked Vitor because look at that guy. He looks like a machine. And like I just didn't see this going well for Anthony Smith in Vitor's home country. You know, it's in Brazil. That's very intimidating, but again, it's Anthony Smith. He's been there, done that. So I guess, you know, there's not really much that can make him nervous, and it showed. So, yeah, great performance. And then another submission was from Michel Pereira. I didn't expect that. And that was over Ihor Potieria. And, yeah, it was very fast. Not much happening there. Just dominance. Absolute dominance. I think Michel Pereira is very exciting, and I just don't know who I want to see him fight against. Actually, you know what? Let's get back to that Jack Hermanson idea. I like that idea. That's what I said the last time, and I'm going back to it. Unless, is Jack Hermanson fighting anyone soon? I don't think he is, but who knows? Let me see. Let's check. Jack Hermanson. No, he doesn't have any fights booked. So, yeah, I like Michel Pereira versus Jack Hermanson. Let's make it happen. That's the fight I want to see. And then, another middleweight fight, Paul Craig versus Caio Borralho. And Borralho won this via knockout, TKO, whatever you want to call it. That was spectacular. Probably my favorite performance on the card, besides Mauricio Hufi. That was beautiful. That was a beautiful performance. There was a lot of really good performances on this card, but yeah, Mauricio Hufi, that one stood out to me. I was expecting more from Oralby, but that was a really good fight. And yeah. And Michel Pereira, I think those were my favorites. Another really good fight was Joaquim Silva versus Drakkar Klose. That was a phenomenal fight. It was really good. It was very competitive and just a fun fight. I wasn't sure how that was going to go, like how the fight was going to play out, but once it started, I was like, okay, this is going to be fun. Yeah, so that's UFC 301. Now let's move on to the very exciting UFC St. Louis card coming up. It is this Saturday. I'm so excited. Honestly, the more I look at this, because I've been doing film study all day, and I've been kind of just digging into these matchups a little bit, and this is a better card than I think people are giving it credit for. This is a really good card. Like, really good. So, let's run through it. So, the first fight on the card, is going to be JJ Aldrich versus Veronica Hardy. JJ Aldrich is 13-6. Veronica Hardy is 8-4-1. JJ Aldrich is 31. Veronica is 28. There's a slight difference in height. Veronica's 5'4". JJ Aldrich is 5'5". Aldrich does have a slight reach advantage, 67.5-inch reach, versus Veronica has a 64-inch reach. And a couple things that I noticed are just, obviously, JJ Aldrich has incredible striking. She's a high-level black belt in Taekwondo, but one thing that I've noticed about her is that she has really good boxing. So it's interesting. And sometimes I think you see this with certain fighters where they kind of abandon their old techniques. But yeah, I've noticed in her fights that she likes to box and she's very good at it. But she does have high-level Taekwondo, so you never know what you're going to see from her. Could see some kind of crazy spinning heel kick knockout, or I don't know, something crazy. That'd be fun. But she is a brown belt in jiu-jitsu as well, so she's just very well-rounded. I feel like she's had some difficulty in her career, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of it has to do with the matchups, honestly, that she's had. And just, yeah, because she's very good. She's very technically sound. She trains at Elevation Fight Team, so, you know, she's got good cardio. She's just an all-around great fighter. It's just, yeah, she's had, Macy Barber, Erin Blanchfield, Ariane Lipsky. Like, she's had these tough matchups, but then you see her do really well. Like, she has a win over Jillian Robertson. She's on a 2-fight win streak right now. Her last win over Montana De La Rosa. So I do really like her chances in this fight. I do really like Veronica Hardy, though, as well. And she actually really does have a good ground game. And I know she's been submitted in the past. But if you watch her fight with Juliana Miller, it looks like she's improved her submission defense, because she defended like 15 different submissions, it seemed like. Maybe not that many. Maybe I'm exaggerating. But there were quite a few submission defense. Oh my gosh, I cannot talk. There were quite a few submissions that she defended in that fight. And then she ultimately got the win. So, yeah, she's got great footwork too. And she's got great lateral movement. So I think it's going to be hard for JJ Aldrich to find her. But if she does, I do like her chances because, like I said, she's durable. She has good boxing. She's fought, I would argue, JJ Aldrich has fought tougher competition than Veronica Hardy. Veronica Hardy has fought good competition. Like, she doesn't have a win over Jillian Robertson, but she did fight her. So that's a mutual opponent, Poliana Viana. She has a win over her. She actually submitted her with an armbar in the first round. But yeah, I just think overall that JJ Aldrich has a more impressive resume, but they are both on a 2-fight win streak, and I like what Veronica Hardy has done. I've been impressed with her, especially after she retired and came back, and she came back and got those 2 wins. So that was pretty cool. But I don't know. This is definitely going to be her toughest fight. I will say that. So I would say, if I'm going to predict this, I would say probably either a finish for JJ Aldrich or a decision for Veronica Hardy. I do really like JJ Aldrich's chances in the striking and also on the ground. I think she could do something there. I just don't think it's going to be a submission. Actually, I don't know. I don't think either of these girls are going to get a finish. Now that I'm kind of thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know. I got to take that back. Actually, yeah, I can't see Aldrich getting submitted by Veronica. I think it'll be a decision. I just don't know who it's going to be. This is honestly a pretty It's, I don't even know how to describe it. Okay, next fight. Jared Gooden versus Kevin Jusay. So Jared Gooden is 23-9. He is 30 years old, 6 feet tall, and has a 77-inch reach. He is based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Kevin Jusay is 10-2. He is 31 years old, 6'2", 75-inch reach. He's from France, but he's fighting out of New Zealand and trains at City Kickboxing. So a couple things that I've noticed is that Jared Gooden, he has a great jab. He has power. I could see him kind of moving in with some blitzes on Kevin Jusay. I think that would work very well for him. Another thing about Jared Gooden is he's obviously very experienced. He doesn't have a ton of UFC experience, but he does have a lot of cage time. And I feel like, I don't know, like he got cut and then he came back. And then his first fight back, he lost, but they kept him. and then he won the next fight. So he's had a very roller coaster type of career. But I do see, like, he's very good. It just seems like he keeps going like one step forward, 2 steps back. So like I really do hope that he's on a train going forward. No pun intended. His nickname's Night Train. I didn't even think about that. I do think he's on a train going forward, though. I think he's doing the right things. Like his last performance was good, and I think that there are some opportunities in this fight, especially with him having a slight reach advantage, because part of what Kevin Jusay likes to do is he likes to use his lead hand to maintain his range and use his jab, so that Jared could kind of take that away just with his reach. But we'll see. Kevin is still the taller fighter, and he's very technical. So he looks very much like a City Kickboxing fighter. He likes to play with feints. You see him like kind of move his shoulder and his hips a little bit in the beginning to kind of play with those feints. And another thing that he does really well is he has good leg kicks and he has a great jab. So I don't know what to expect from him, honestly, just with this being only his 3rd UFC fight. I haven't seen a ton of his fights, and I haven't seen him fight anybody on the caliber of Jared Gooden. So it's hard to say. I would probably give the edge to Jared just because he has more experience. And although his UFC experience hasn't been impeccable, I think that experience is valuable either way. So I do give the edge to Jared, and I could see Jared kind of moving in and catching him, and I don't know, who knows? But with Kevin being so technical, that will make it difficult for Jared to really do anything. Jared does have good grappling too, so that might be a good path to victory, would be to try to grapple with him. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. That's actually a really hard fight to predict just because they are so different, and you just haven't seen much from Kevin Jusay yet. So it's hard to gauge where he's at. This will definitely tell us where he's at, though, I think. And then the next fight is flyweight. So Jake Hadley versus Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson is one of the fighters on this card that is from St. Louis. So I think just that alone, with him being in his hometown, that's really going to give him some good energy. I saw he was doing some stuff with the Cardinals and with Sean Woodson. So I think that is going to help him tremendously. And, you know, he's 14-6, hasn't had the most perfect career in the UFC. But at the same time, he's been fed to absolute monsters the entire time he's been in the UFC. So it's kind of like, if you look at the matchups that he's faced, I mean, like it makes sense. It makes sense that he hasn't necessarily been perfect, but I mean, the thing is, though, that, like, he's not getting finished. It's hard to explain. But, like, when he wins, a lot of times he's finishing these people. Not all the time, but a lot of times. At least before the UFC. And then now, you know, he's got some good wins, though. He's got a win over Zhalgas Zhumagulov. He's got the win over Jimmy Flick. And then his most recent win, Maxim. I can never remember how to pronounce that. But then, you know, his losses. He lost to Mokaev. He lost to Cody Durden. He lost to Estevam, who I believe is still undefeated. And he lost to O'Day Osborne, who's very good. So, like I said, his losses are, you know, they're not bad. They're not bad losses. So I'm glad that he's still in the UFC because he belongs in the UFC. And the guy that he just beat, his last fight, was undefeated. Like, Charles wasn't supposed to win that fight. So I think that him being a slight underdog, or actually, I don't even know if he is an underdog in this fight. I think he is. Yeah, he's a slight underdog. At least on the UFC website, he is plus 145. Yeah, I think that Jake Hadley's good. He's very good. But I really do think this is a winnable fight for Charles. I think that, you know, the guy he's fighting is very good, but he's not unbeatable. But Charles Johnson's really good, and he's from St. Louis, like I said, so he's going to be in his hometown. He's going to be feeling the vibes. I think that's going to be really good for him. I really do. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm leaning toward Charles Johnson in that fight, and we'll see. We shall see. What is the next fight? The next fight is a welterweight fight. This is between Billy Goff, who is 9-2, and Trey Waters, who is 8-1. I believe this is Trey Waters' debut, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, this is his second fight in the UFC. His last fight was the fight with Josh Keeneland. That was a great fight. I do actually like Billy Goff's chances in this fight. It seems like he's a finisher. He's got great finishing ability, and he's got a lot of power. And I think that's going to be the secret to his success. I think he's only 25, so he's pretty young still too. I think he has a lot of potential. I do like both of them, and I've watched both of them fight. I think this is going to be a really good fight. The one thing that I noticed in this matchup, though, that I am a little curious about is Billy Goff is 5'10". He has a 72.5-inch reach, and Trey Waters is 6'5" with a 77-inch reach. So very tall for welterweight, but I think that Billy could, you know, kind of use the height disadvantage and turn it into an advantage. And I've said that before where, you know, you can work the inside, throw body shots, things like that, and just, you know, avoid fighting in their range. And I think that will go well for him. So I do really like Billy Goff's chances in this fight. If he wins, I would think it would probably be a knockout. And if Trey Waters wins, I would think it would be a decision. But we'll see. I don't know. I'm really excited for this fight, though. I think this is going to be really exciting and really fun. And Billy Goff, like I said, he's 9-2. He's very young, early in his career. So if he gets this win, that's going to be really big for him. And this is also his second fight in the UFC. He was on Contender Series. And it was a while ago, but when he was on Contender Series, he got a first-round knockout. And most of his wins have been first-round knockouts. So, yeah, definitely one to keep an eye on for sure. So I'm very excited for that fight. And then after that, we have a women's strawweight fight. Tabitha Ricci, who is 9-2. She's 29 years old, 5'1", 61-inch reach versus Tisha Pennington, formerly Tisha Torres. She is 13-6, 34 years old, 5'1", she's 5'1" with a 61-inch reach. So they're the same height, same reach. I just really like Tabitha Ricci. I've just been so impressed with her. I don't know how she's going to win this fight, but I do think she's going to. And that's not... I'm not saying that because I think Tisha Torres isn't that good. I just think that Tabitha Ricci is that good. I really like her chances in this fight. And especially like with them being so similar in height, I think that's a good thing for Ricci. The only thing is that Tisha has an obvious advantage in experience. She is coming off of a split decision loss to Mackenzie Dern. So, you know, it's not like she's losing badly. Before that, she was on a 3-fight win streak. So, you know, in her losses, to her credit, have been Marina Rodriguez, Weili Zhang, Joanna Jacek, Jessica Andrade. So 3 out of 4 of those are either current or former champions. And then her other loss before that was Rose. So she's losing to high caliber opponents. And she also trains at ATT. So I just really think that she has a lot of weapons available. She has a lot of experience. Tisha is definitely very dangerous for some reason. I just think Tabitha Ricci is the real deal, and I think she's going to win. Maybe a submission or a decision in this one. I don't see her getting a knockout, but I could see her getting a decision or a submission in this fight, definitely. So we'll see. And then moving on to... this fight is going to be awesome. Terrence McKinney, who's 15-6, versus Esteban Rivadex, who's 12-1. Terrence McKinney is 29 years old, 5'10", 73.5-inch reach. Esteban is 28 years old, 5'10", 69-inch reach. I really like Terry. I really like Terrence McKinney's chances in this fight. I mean, the guy he's fighting is 12-1, so it looks kind of intimidating. But he hasn't... I don't even know if he's fought in the UFC before. Has he? I'm not 100% sure. But Terrence McKinney has a lot of power. He's a knockout artist. So I expect a Terrence McKinney knockout in this fight. And I think that... actually, this could be a good opportunity for Terrence to use his wrestling. Because when Esteban Rivadex fought Kamola Kirk, which that was actually his second fight in the UFC. I thought that was his debut, but it wasn't. His debut, he lost his debut to Radzhabov. But Kamola Kirk is, let's see, he is currently 11-6. So, yeah, that's a good opponent. But Terrence McKinney is definitely a huge step up from there. And I think that just how easily Kirk took Esteban down in the first round, I think that could be an opportunity for Terrence, especially if, you know, Terrence gets on top, throws ground and pound. I think that would be a great path to victory for him there. Also, just, you know, doing what he normally does. He can just fight like Terrence McKinney. I don't know that he needs some strategic game plan necessarily. I mean, this guy is tough and he is very talented, but at the same time, I think this is a good fight for Terrence, and I think Terrence is going to win. So that's what I think. I'm also a huge Terrence McKinney fan. How could you not be? But I did watch film, and I did base this on like facts. So not just sitting here saying he's going to win just because of his viral knockouts. I actually, just watching them, yeah. I think Terrence got this one. I think this is a good matchup for him. And then, next fight, Chase Hooper versus Vyacheslav Borshev. Sorry if I butchered that name. Vyacheslav. Is that how you say it? I don't know. This is a guy that beat Dakota Bush. So as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, interesting. It's interesting. So I actually, when I first saw this, thought Borshev would be kind of who I would think would win. But then when I actually like watched film, I changed my mind. So Chase Hooper is, he lost Alex Caceres back in the day, and I remember he was 20 years old when he fought him, and that was such a mismatch, honestly. Like, that early in his career to be fighting Alex Caceres. He couldn't even drink alcohol yet, and he's fighting a vet. So that was crazy. I honestly couldn't believe they made that matchup. But Chase Hooper is 13-3-1, so he's only had 3 losses, so it's not terrible, especially he's only 24 years old, so it's kind of crazy the length of career he's had already, even just starting his career in not that long ago, like 4 or 5 years ago he started his UFC career. So pretty crazy. He is 6'1", he has a 74-inch reach, and he is a southpaw, which that makes things interesting because Borshev is orthodox. He is 5'11", he has a 69-inch reach, and he is 7-3-1. He is 32 years old. He obviously finished Dakota Bush, which honestly, watching that fight back, I think Dakota just got a little reckless, and he was kind of overcommitting to some things, and I think he's learned from that. So if they were to rematch, I actually think Dakota would win, and because I've noticed just the adjustments, like in Dakota's last fight, he fought way more patient. He wasn't throwing recklessly or, abandoning technique. Like, and not that he really was abandoning technique in this fight, because he was using technique. It just seemed like, he wasn't, it wasn't as calculated of a Dakota Bush as I've seen lately. So I think that also he was new in the UFC when he fought Borshev, so I don't know. But I do think that Chase Hooper is going to win this fight, absolutely. His striking isn't the best, but one thing that I think will save him in this fight is just the fact that he has the longer reach and he's taller, so I think that will kind of help him a little bit, just because, he doesn't have great striking, let's be honest. But grappling, though, amazing grappling. Very good grappling. And Borshev got taken down 11 times in his fight with Mark Jacasey and 9 times in his fight with Mike Davis. So I just think that, Chase Hooper's not going to have a hard time getting him to the ground. And if Chase Hooper gets him to the ground, I think he's going to be able to get a submission. So I feel pretty good about Chase Hooper in this fight. I really do. But Borshev is very dangerous on the feet. Don't get me wrong. He's very good. Very talented. But just what I saw after the Dakota Bush fight, when he fought Jacasey and Davis and just got ragdolled. Yeah. I think Chase Hooper is... This is a good matchup for him, I think. And I didn't think that when I first saw it, but then when I went back, I was like, oh, I forgot about this. So I do like Chase Hooper's chances in that one. And then after that, we have the heavyweight fight. Well, the first heavyweight fight of the night, I guess you could say. Waldo Cortez Acosta, who is 11-1, 32 years old, 6'4", 78-inch reach, versus Rebelis Despain, who is 5-0, 35 years old, 6'7", 87-inch reach. I have zero reason to bet against Rebelis at this point, so why would I? Why would I think he's going to lose? He has not lost yet. So until he does, I really have no reason to think that there's anything different Acosta is going to do to Rebelis that, all of Rebelis' opponents have not been able to figure out. So I just think that, Waldo, not the fastest paced fighter. I just think that Rebelis is going to immediately just go for the kill, and I think he's going to get it. Waldo had his last fight, or I think it was his last fight, was the win over Andrei Arlovsky. I mean, it was a good performance, but it wasn't, I don't know. It just wasn't spectacular. I think that, yeah. This is a tough fight for Rebellis at this point in his career. On paper, Rebellis, yeah, he's inexperienced. So it looks like, you know, if I hadn't watched any of Rebellis' film, I'd be like, yeah, this is ridiculous. I'd be like, Acosta is going to whoop this guy. But then you watch him and you're like, oh, no, he's not. So, and also just that reach. His arms are so long. That's a problem for anybody to deal with. So I think that I don't think Rebellis is really going to have a lot of problems just because he's so scary and he's so just dangerous. So I don't think he's going to have any problems until he faces somebody like Sergey Spivak or somebody like that who maybe could present more problems. I just think that, yeah. I think Rebellis is going to get another knockout. So, we'll see. We shall see. But it is an interesting fight, and it's not an easy fight for sure. I just don't think Rebellis knows how to fight any other way than just going in there and destroying people. So that's why I think he's going to get a knockout. I can't see him winning by decision. It just doesn't... If that fight goes all 3 rounds, I don't think he's going to win. I think he's a knockout artist. So, we'll see. And then after that, the fight that I am probably most excited for, I'll be honest, is Alex Caceres versus Sean Woodson. Alex Caceres is 21-14. He is 35 years old. He is 5'10". He has a 73.5-inch reach. He is a southpaw. Sean Woodson is 31 years old. He is 6'2". He has a 78-inch reach, and he is an orthodox fighter. So you guys have probably heard me talk about Sean quite a bit on here because Sean Woodson is the only St. Louis fighter that still trains in St. Louis full time. And what I really like about Sean is that he actually is a boxer. Like, he is a real boxer. And I don't think people realize that. He had, actually, I might be able to pull it. I'm going to try to pull it up on BoxRec. I don't know if it'll be on here because they're amateur fights. But you know what? Why not try it? I'm going to take a look. See if I can find it. No, of course, it only has pro. Well, he does have one pro win in boxing. But I am pretty sure he had over 40. Wait, that wasn't a boxing fight. That was a kickboxing fight. So I don't even think he's had a pro boxing match. I was going to say, I'm like, Bo Coons. I'm like, that looks familiar. I'm like, oh yeah, that was the kickboxing fight Danny Wright told me about with his brother. Yeah, so he actually... I don't know why it's counted as a pro boxing fight. That's weird. Anyways, got sidetracked. Pretty sure he's had like over 40 amateur boxing fights though. Like, he's a legit boxer. And you can tell when you watch him. And not only that, but his range is so ridiculous. Like, you can pretty much count on Sean having at least a 4 or 5 inch reach advantage against all of his opponents, it seems like. It's just crazy. It's crazy. And actually, Caceres is pretty rangy for that division. It's not like he doesn't have any range. So, now with Caceres, he's coming off the loss to Giga Chikadze. He's very good on the ground offensively. Sometimes can get caught in submissions, though. But you don't want... I don't think you want to go to the ground with Caceres unless you are a grappler. So I don't know if I like the idea of Sean taking this to the ground or playing on the ground at all, really, with Caceres. And not that he's like some jiu-jitsu specialist, but he's got 4 wins by rear naked choke in his pro career. and he's got very good back control. So Alex Caceres, like I said, he has very good back control. He's got a lot of wins by rear naked choke, and I do think that is something for Sean to look out for as far as the grappling goes. But in the striking, I definitely would still give the advantage to Sean. I think that Sean has the advantage in striking with a lot of the featherweight division. I just don't think people have seen it yet. I don't think people realize what he's actually capable of. And I actually don't even think we're going to see the full extent of it until we see Sean in a 5-round fight. I think Sean is a 5-round fighter. I think his style is designed for 5 rounds. And I still think he's a good 3-round fighter, of course, but I think when he starts getting 5-round fights is where we're really going to see what he can really do. And that's, you know, he's a boxer. And for boxers, 3 rounds, you know, it's not ideal. You want more rounds. You want 4th round, 5th round. You want more. So, and you'll see that, you know, after Sean's fights, like his last fight against Jourdain, he looked like he could have done that another 14 times. Like, he looked fresh. So, yeah, I really do think that Sean has the advantage here. But like I said, I think we're really going to see a lot more from Sean when he's in some 5-rounders. But since this is 3 rounds, I do still think that Sean has the advantage. I think it'll be a decision win for Sean. I would like to see him get a knockout. It's just that with the matchups that he's been getting, it's not ideal for that. You know, it's not like he's fighting people who have never done this before, who have never been in a big UFC event, who have never, you know, he's fighting guys that are good, like really, really good and tough. So that's, I think, a lot of the reason why we haven't seen him get a ton of knockouts. I mean, he got the knockout over Terrence McKinney, beautiful. But I think we're going to see more of that later in his career. And I actually like that for Sean. I think that's good. I think it's like we're slowly unraveling what Sean is capable of. And in this fight, I think his range is going to be a big deal. Obviously, he's got the reach advantage, which he normally does. But he's just got great boxing. And he's got good kicks too, though. He's got good kicks. He's got good knees. He's got good leg kicks. There's a reason his nickname is the Sniper. That's what he does. He sits there and he will find those shots. He will find the shots, and he doesn't telegraph his punches. He's very smooth. He almost gets into like a flow state. And if we see that version of Sean, it's going to be a long night for Alex Caceres, because Alex Caceres is going to get picked apart if Sean is able to do what Sean does. And I think that, you know, like I said, not a huge chance he's going to knock him out. Alex Caceres is tough. He hasn't even been knocked out in 9 years. So I don't see that happening for Sean. Like I said, I wish. I'd love to see him get a knockout. I just don't see it happening here. But a couple things about Alex Caceres that I've noticed is very, very good kickboxing. Obviously, we all know that. Very good grappling too. He's a very complete fighter, I would say. He's got it all. He can do it all. But I think where he's the most dangerous is in kickboxing range, and I think that actually could be a challenge for Sean a little bit, because Sean is going to want to fight on the outside, and it's going to be hard for him, because not only that, is Alex Caceres a great kickboxer, but he's also a southpaw. So it's going to be hard, but I think he's going to do it. And I think he's going to do it in a beautiful fashion. I think it's going to be probably his best performance to date. And I think that we are going to see just a more elevated version of Sean. And I think we're going to see, like, I think Sean probably is going into this fight thinking like, wow, this is like the biggest fight of my life. I'm fighting in front of my hometown. Oh my gosh. But then once he gets in the cage, I think all that's going to go away, and I think he's just going to do what Sean does. I think he's going to flow. He's going to find those openings. Alex Caceres, with him being a kickboxer and his style, he uses a lot of very big movements, and Sean is like the opposite. You know, Sean is boxing. He's sniping. He's getting you quickly. He's throwing jabs. He's throwing counters, and I think with Alex's style being so kickboxing heavy and with him using so many big movements, I think that will work very wonderfully for Sean, and Sean will be able to use that to his advantage to really find those shots and pick those shots. So I'm thinking that Sean Woodson is going to win this by decision, and I think it's going to be a dominant performance from Sean. So that's my prediction for Casares versus Woodson. And then we have another fun lightweight fight on this card. We've got, well, that fight was featherweight, but we've got like I think we have 3 or 4 lightweight fights on this card, and this is one of them, and this one is going to be very exciting. So Diego Ferreira is 18-5, and he is fighting Mateusz Rombeski, who is 19-1. And Diego is 39 years old. He's 5'9", has a 74-inch reach. He's an orthodox fighter. Mateusz is 5'7". He has a 66-inch reach, and he is a southpaw. Great thing about Rombeski, he's very explosive, very powerful. He's, it is kind of interesting seeing somebody his height. Like, Arman is another one who's 5'7" and has a lot of success in the UFC. So maybe height isn't as important as people think. I don't know. But it seems like it's working well for Rombeski. Now, what Rombeski is going to have to be careful of is the ground game. So Diego Ferreira is a 3rd-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's obviously very well versed on the ground. He's very experienced. You know, he's 18-5, so he's got over 20 fights. And at one point, Diego was a big part of the lightweight division. You know, we saw him fight. I can't remember who he fought. Maybe Dustin Poirier. Like, he's fought some top level guys in the UFC, and Rombeski is still kind of moving forward in his career. He's not quite there yet, which is interesting because, you know, there's not a huge difference in experience. But I think that Diego does have the experience advantage just with being in the UFC longer. And I think that his ground game is a huge advantage as well. But I think that Rombeski is just too explosive and too powerful. So I could definitely see him getting a knockout or even possibly, you know, taking it to the ground and getting like a ground and pound finish or something like that. I just think he needs to be careful on the ground with Diego. So we'll see. I don't know, but I do like Rombeski's chances in this fight, and just I really like what I've seen from him. So, and like I said, you know, he's an explosive southpaw. Like that's what you want. And with him being shorter, that could make it easier for him to kind of like get on the inside and do some damage to the body too. But I don't know. That is one thing I'm curious about. It's just him being so short and having such a disadvantage in the reach. You know, he's got an 8-inch disadvantage in reach there. So not sure how that's going to go. But without that, I think he's good. I would probably favor him in this fight a little bit. He's also younger, so he's got time in his career. And then the next fight is light heavyweight. So Alonzo Menifield, who is 15-3-1, versus Carlos Ulberg, who is 9-1. Alonzo Menifield is 36. He is 6 feet tall, 76-inch reach. And Carlos Ulberg is 33 years old with a 77-inch reach, and he is 6'4". So slight advantage in height and reach for Carlos Ulberg. He's one of the city kickboxing guys, so you're going to see a lot of very technical kickboxing from him. He also has a very powerful left hook. That is something I would be afraid of if I was Alonzo Menifield, just because we've seen Alonzo get hit with left hooks before. He does tend to drop his lead hand when he throws jabs, which could leave him vulnerable to some other counter strikes. But I think ultimately when he throws, let's see, because Alonzo, I think he's orthodox. Let me check. Alonzo Menifield, what are you? Yeah, he's orthodox, so that means his right hand would be his rear hand, and if he throws a 2, that would potentially open him up for the left hook. Yeah, because then if Olberg is in front of him, this is going to be his left hand. So, yeah, interesting. I don't know. There are definitely some counter opportunities for Carlos here. And Alonso isn't super fast. He's got power, but he doesn't have speed. So I think that's where the difference is going to be with Olberg and Menefield. I think Menefield might even have more power, but I think Olberg's going to be faster. I think he's going to be more technical. I think he's going to move a little bit better. You know, Alonso doesn't necessarily have the greatest footwork in the world. So I don't know. I mean, when I first saw this fight, I was leaning toward Alonso, but now that I've kind of looked into it more, I want to say Carlos Olberg is going to find a home for that left hook, and I think he might win. And then we've got the co-main event. The co-main event is St. Louis's own Joaquin Buckley versus Nursultan Ruziboyev. So this is a very strange matchup. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. It's very strange. What makes it even weirder is that there is a 7-inch difference in height, but the reach is the same. So Joaquin Buckley has a 76-inch reach. Nursultan has a 76-inch reach as well. But Nursultan is 6'5", and Joaquin Buckley's 5'10". So it's very weird. But I do think that's going to be a huge factor because, you know, when you're fighting somebody taller than you, like I've had to spar, most people I've sparred are taller than me. So I've had to kind of, like, I think that's why I train the way that I do and I spar the way that I do. It's just because I'm so used to, like, aiming upwards. And so I stand taller and, you know, I have to spar a certain way to be able to reach them. But what it does help you with being short is landing body shots. And also, Joaquin Buckley is a southpaw. And when you're a southpaw, you know, if he can kind of keep his foot on the outside and use his boxing, I think I actually really like Buckley's chances. I don't think the height is as big of a deal as people think. And Ruziboyev is very good. He's scary. He's terrifying, but he's not unbeatable. You know, Joaquin Buckley's 18-6. Nursultan is 34-8-2. So yeah, and they're both the same age. They're both 30. So I actually really like Buckley's chances in this fight. I think that he could have some success with his boxing, his inside work, throwing the body shots. He loves throwing body shots. I've seen him do it in pretty much every single fight, and they are powerful. And I think if he can wear Nursultan down with those and eventually kind of headhunt to get the knockout, I think he could pull it off for sure. I think that with some creative combinations, with some body head kind of combinations, I think could really do some damage. If it doesn't knock him out, I think Joaquin will be able to pull it off in a decision as well. Just, I don't know. That's just what I'm thinking. I get why people are worried for Buckley in this fight because this guy is a monster. I mean, he's huge. He's 6'5", like he's massive, but I don't know. I don't think this is the hardest guy that Buckley's fought. I really don't. I think he's had tougher fights than this, and he's won. So, I don't know. I just think, yeah, I like this for Buckley. I really do. It's scary, but he wanted to fight on UFC St. Louis, so I don't know. I mean, but here's the thing. He was calling out Neil Magny, MVP. Like, those would have been way harder fights. And you're going to sit here and tell me that Nursultan Ruziboyev is a harder fight than MVP or even some of the guys that he's already fought, you know? I think that, no, this is a good matchup for Buckley. I like it. Yeah, like I said, I don't think height is as big of an advantage as people think. If you know how to use your height and use your range like Sean Woodson does, sure, it's a huge advantage. But not everybody really knows how to use it, and I don't think that the style of Ruzaboyev necessarily plays into that as much as people think. So, yeah. I think he's had tougher fights, so I'm saying. You know, he fought Chris Curtis, he fought Imavov, he fought Kevin Holland is a harder fight too. I mean, Kevin Holland's almost 6'5". He's like 6'3" or 6'4" or something. So it's not like he's never fought a guy that's tall. He's fought guys that are tall before. And yeah, that's what I'm going to say. That's what I got for you on that one. I'm taking Joaquin Buckley. Sorry, I'm not doing predictions on all of these because I really don't know. I really don't know who's going to win all these fights. I'm just doing predictions on the ones I feel confident in. How about that? But you at least, you at least get some info on all the fighters. That's really my main priority when I'm doing these, is just to kind of give people I don't know what to call it, like the preview of how the fight's going to go. Not necessarily here to get the best, like I don't need to be right all the time to feel like I'm doing a good job, but I guess some people do. I am usually right. That's the scary thing. But at the end, you know what I'm going to do for you guys? Since I didn't do predictions on all these, I'm just going to do picks at the end. But I don't feel super confident about all of them, so I'll do it just for you guys. But let's get to the main event, because I'm torn on this one, guys. I really am. So Derek Lewis, 27-12, is fighting Rodrigo Nascimento, who is 11-1. Derek Lewis is 39 years old, 6'3", 79-inch reach. Rodrigo is 31 years old, 6'2", and has an 80-inch reach. So I don't know what to think about this fight, honestly. I really don't know what to think about this, because Derek Lewis is a power puncher. We've seen him get up, though. And that is what I'm worried about in this fight. I'm worried about Nascimento taking him down and Derek Lewis not being able to get back up. But we've seen him do it. We've seen him do it so many times. We've seen him do it when we didn't think he could do it. I can't remember which fight it was. There was one fight where he got taken. I think it was Ivanov. I think that was the fight he got taken down and he got back up pretty impressively. And there were some more. There were some other ones too. But yeah, so Rodrigo Nascimento, like I said, he's 11-1. He does have, see, what was his one loss? His loss was to Chris Daukaus, which was a knockout loss in the first round. So he's not undefeatable. He has shown that he can be knocked out. He has shown that. And then he had that one fight that went to a no contest. So he should technically be 12-1, I guess. But he tested positive for Ritalinic acid. Okay. Well, that sucks. But yeah. So technically, I guess, should be 12-1, but he's 11-1. And yeah, I don't know. I'm so scared to predict this fight because it's heavyweight. Like, you don't ever know what's going to happen. Rodrigo does have good striking, but I just didn't see anything overly special. Like, I didn't see anything in the striking that was like, oh, wow. Like, I definitely am more impressed by Cyril Gane's striking, obviously. But he is well-rounded. He can strike, he can grapple, he can do everything. So that does worry me with Derek Lewis, but I think Derek actually, it seems like most of his fights, it hasn't even really been the grappling that's been a huge problem, besides obviously his last fight with Jailton Almeida, but Jailton Almeida is one of the best grapplers in the division. And then the fight with Spivak. So it's definitely there. There's definitely opportunities. But like the fight with Gon, the fight with Pavlovich, the fight with Tuivasa, like he got knocked out in those fights. So I don't know if the ground game necessarily is as big of a deal as I'm making it out to be. Maybe it's not. Maybe I don't know. But I do think it is something to be aware of. And I think that Derek just, he just doesn't fight like you want him to fight. He's can be kind of frustrating at times. Even the fights he wins sometimes, like with Curtis Blades. I was like, dude. I mean, he just got whooped the whole fight and then found the knockout. So I could see that happening, especially with this being a 5-round fight. I could see Derek Lewis surviving long enough to then find the knockout. I'm trying to see. A lot of his knockouts have been first round, but not all of them. You know, like with Curtis Blades, I think that was in the 4th or 5th round, something like that. Oh no, it was in the 2nd round. Why did I think that fight was longer? I thought that was a 5-round fight. Or maybe it was supposed to be a 5-round fight, but it wasn't. But, yeah. And then, you know, let's see. Yeah, he had that knockout over Shamil back in 2016. That was a 4th-round knockout. So I guess, most of his have been in the first 3 rounds, now that I'm looking at it. So, I don't know. I'm always going to pick Derek Lewis because it's Derek Lewis, but this is honestly not an easy fight to predict, especially with it being heavyweight. Like, this is basically a crapshoot. No matter what way you look at it, like, it's just a 50-50 chance. Like, it's a heavyweight MMA fight with one of the scariest knockout artists in the division versus, a guy who's pretty well-rounded and pretty durable. So let's look at the stats. This is what I do when I watch film and I look at their record, I look at all that, and I still can't figure out who's going to win. Now we're going to the stats. Strikes landed per minute, 2.43 for Derek Lewis, 4.31 for Rodrigo. Striking accuracy, 50% for Derek Lewis, 48%. Okay. Okay, so takedown accuracy for Nascimento is only 33%. I don't know. Still, that didn't help at all. I'm just gonna go with Derek Lewis. Why not? That's what I'm going with. All right, so let's take a look. Let's go back through these. JJ Aldrich versus Veronica Hardy. I'll pick Veronica Hardy just because she's kind of hyped right now. Jared Gooden versus Kevin Jusay. I'll go with Jared Gooden on that one. Charles Johnson versus Jake Hadley. I'm going Charles Johnson. Billy Goff versus Trey Waters. I'm going Billy Goff. Tabitha Ricci versus Tisha Pennington. I'm going with Tabitha Ricci. Terrence McKinney versus Esteban Ribovics. I'm going with Terrence McKinney. Chase Hooper versus Vyacheslav Borshev. Going with Chase Hooper. Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Rebelis Despain. I'm going with Rebelis. Alex Casares versus Sean Woodson. I'm going with Sean Woodson all day long. That's not even a question. Diego Fajeda versus Mateusz Rombeski. That I am going with Mateusz Rombeski. Alonzo Menafield versus Carlos Olberg. I am going with Carlos Olberg on that one. Joaquin Buckley versus Nursultan Ruziboyev. I'm going with Joaquin Buckley. Main event, Derek Lewis versus Rodrigo Nascimento. I am going with Derek Lewis by something crazy. Maybe a flying knee again? That'd be fun. Maybe not. I don't know. But that would be smart if Rodrigo goes for a takedown or something, he could easily throw a knee. We'll see what happens. Come on, Derek Lewis. We need that post-fight speech. We need it. We need it. It will heal America. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all the support. I'm so excited for this St. Louis event. This is probably the most excited I've been for a fight card besides UFC 300 in a long time. Not only because it's going to be in my hometown, St. Louis, Missouri, but I'm going to be doing media for this card. I'm going to be there, and it's going to be so exciting. It's really exciting too because it's going to be not only me, but also like Sean Woodson's there. His team's going to be there, and I've been able to interact with his team quite a bit recently and learn more about him and learn more about, you know, his just everything that's going on, not only with him, but in St. Louis in general. And I'm very excited about the future. I am going to be releasing an interview with Matt Owen, probably as soon as I get off of here. And Matt Owen is Sean Woodson's strength and conditioning coach. So if you would like to watch that, I will link that video in the little thing at the end. So that way, because it's on my other channel. My other channel is Brianna Eckert. It's literally just my name. So BreAnnaEckert. If you want to subscribe to my other channel, that's where you'll find like all my interviews. And there's some other stuff that I want to do in the future on that channel that I haven't done yet, but it's still a work in progress because my focus right now is MMA. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on. But check out that interview and check out my other channel, and you can find my interview with Jordan Howard on there as well. He's fighting on May 17th. So lots of exciting things in the works, and I'm very excited to be just completely embedded in this whole UFC St. Louis experience and just being able to talk with, you know, so many different people, not only on the St. Louis card who are going to be involved in that, but also just being involved with my community in the Nemesis Fighting Alliance event that's coming up the week after, and just everything. I'm super excited. So thank you for the support again. I truly appreciate it. Thank you again to Hayabusa for sending me these amazing, beautiful gloves. I appreciate you guys as well. And thank you to the listeners. Most importantly, thank you guys for watching, listening, or however you consume this. And I will see you next week. Bye.